Hi, my name is Jay McBain. I'm the Chief Analyst for Canalys. I'm really excited to be here today at the AWS Managed Services Partner Panel. Wanted to start off before we introduce the panelists with a little bit of an industry view of managed services. If we take all of government and business spend around the world, the entire TAM for our industry this year is $5.4 trillion. About $1 trillion in hardware, about $1 trillion in software, and over $3 trillion in services. You can see managed services at the bottom at $610 billion this year. Almost 15 cents out of every budget in SMB through mid-market through enterprise is outsourced to managed service providers and the broader community of partners who sell in a recurring revenue model. Just to put this in perspective, managed services this year will be 1.5 times larger than the entire SaaS industry. It's also 1.5 times larger than all of the hyperscalers combined. It's a massive industry, and over 82% of end clients are spending more in outsourcing this year than they did last year. Trying to find the talent in cloud, trying to find the talent in cybersecurity and AI is difficult. And there are partners of all different types that can deliver bigger, better, faster, cheaper. And obviously, end clients are believing in that too. When you take a step down from that big number, it is broken down by obviously all kinds of partner types. There's a geographic story around the world in terms of how it splits out. For example, North America makes up 45% of the entire managed services opportunity. But you see Asia Pacific at 29%, Europe at 23%, and Latin America at 3%. Also, you see that this industry is growing at 13%. Double-digit growth as the tech industry this year grows at 8.2%. The world economy is growing at 2.6% this year. So for those managed service providers, it presents a great opportunity to grow in double digits in what is a pretty challenging economic environment. The other interesting thing that you may not know is there are 341,000 companies in the world today that have at least one managed service. Today on the panel, we'll be hearing from some of the best specialized partners in AWS's environment, but suffice it to say that this is a very broad industry as well in terms of how companies sell these services, where they're positioned, the size of the company, and other things. But suffice it to say, it is a large group of people that drive this industry growth as well. And so when we start to look at partners around the world, and we do surveys in terms of the types of activities that they participate in, you may have heard from AWS about the multiplier effect, $6.40 of available services market that is connected to every dollar of consumption of AWS. And so when we talk to partners, we see the consulting and the design and the architecture opportunities, the implementation, the integration opportunities. But you see in the bottom right, 2/3 of partners are engaging in managed services as a key opportunity every 30 days forever around that managed services client. And there's about $1 for every dollar of AWS that's available. Over $100 billion of managed services get triggered through AWS alone. So this is a really interesting market, and this will be the last slide. But in a world where customers and clients are surrounded today on an average of 7 partners, one of the critical partners is a managed service provider, providing these services before, during, and after that initial transaction. They're partnering on the channel side, on the strategic alliances, through all the tech integrations, the implementations that have to be done, through co-selling, through co-marketing. There are so many motions, there are so many opportunities for success working together with AWS, working around the client, delighting that client, driving great outcomes, that I wanted to move on and introduce the panel. But before I do that, I want to hand it over to Sachin, who can first introduce himself, but talk a little bit about AWS's approach to managed services, the program, and what they're thinking about.
Thank you, Jay. I'm Sachin Vora. I lead AWS partner programs globally, and I'm based out of Seattle. and really excited about the opportunity ahead of us. My team is right now building our business around the managed service provider, and the MSP, as we call it, is a key partner as we unlock value for our customers, and has been an important ingredient, if you will, in how we create value on a sustainable basis with our customers. And our customers are implementing new applications, they are bringing new workloads onto the cloud, and as that is happening, we are seeing that the value and the consumption, that the value that they derive from the consumption they are having on the cloud is unlocked by partners who are with them at every step of the journey. And so managed services is a big business at AWS in terms of how we go to market and create value on a sustainable basis. Today we'll be talking about some of the pieces that we are introducing from a program perspective that AWS is investing in to make sure that our partners have the latest and the greatest in terms of what we are doing around our services, how they can take those and manage it for our customers and unlock value on a day-to-day basis so that our customers can focus on what is core to their business, which is how they take care of their customers and how they differentiate themselves for the customers. So Jay, super good opportunity for us to kind of go talk about this, and we are seeing a great traction and great stories coming from all parts of the world. So today we'll unlock some of that. So back to you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great conversation here, and let's introduce the panel because you've got some of the AWS's best partners in this space, and we can talk about the opportunity. Why don't we start on my left, Tom? Why don't you introduce yourself and your company?
Thanks, Jay. My name is Tom Zorc. I'm from the company Reply. Reply is a European systems integrator, and we are now expanding also to other regions, not only focusing on Europe. And we have a really very long, very old, very intense relationship with AWS. Started back in 2013, where I was also personally involved. So I'm also personally a very old AWS fanboy.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a great conversation in terms of system integrators, delivering in a recurring revenue model. So excited about that. Next to you, Srini from Rackspace.
Hi, my name is Srini Kaushik. I'm the president of AI and sustainability for Rackspace Technology. And Rackspace is an AI and hybrid cloud company, a very, very long time AWS partner. And we specialize in making sure that we understand our customers' workloads and figure out the right location for that and continuing to not just migrate it and modernize it, but operate it in that environment.
That's fantastic. And I know Rackspace plays multiple roles with AWS through technology integrations as well as services and other things. So excited about talking about that as well. Next to Sakya is Pankaj from Kyndryl.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Pankaj Kumar from Kyndryl. I'm the Vice President and Global Head of the AWS Alliance. And just a quick snapshot about Kyndryl. We are, in last fiscal FY24, we were a $16 billion revenue company. We are working with the largest banks, the largest airlines companies. So in fact, we run the mission critical applications for 4 of the largest airlines in the world, 6 of the top 10 banks, 3 of the top 5 telco companies. So I think in terms of our experience on the managed services program, it has been there since the inception of our organization. So Kyndryl spun out of IBM about a little over 3 years. And since that time, we have been a MSP partner. Really, we take that very strategically. So we can talk in detail in terms of how we have benefited from the program as we go along. But looking forward to this session. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And by our count, Kyndryl is the largest managed service provider in the world, ranking number 1 out of 341,000 companies. So excited to get your perspective, especially in enterprise. Next, Jonathan from eCloud Vela.
Yeah. Hey, Jay. So I'm Jonathan Keh. I manage the regional business for eCloud Valley. A little tidbit on eCloud Valley. We were also founded and established in 2013. I would say first mover in a sense. We operate in GCR as well as ASEAN across 11 countries. So our focus really is on migration, analytics, cloud native development, and of course, managed services. We are a managed services competency partner. as well as a level 1 MSSP competency partner as well. A good tidbit as well is that 1 out of 4 of our customers are actually managed services as well. So out of 2,000 customers, give or take, we have, around 500 of them are managed services.
That's fantastic. So we'll be double clicking on that a little bit as we go along. So I don't want to dive into the questions first. Is talk about your journey, not only in managed services, but obviously the managed services journey that you've been on with AWS. Kind of how did it start? How did it form? What were some of the triggers and reasons for choosing AWS? Tom, maybe you can start with you and just kind of walk us through your journey.
Yeah, sure. Glad. Since I'm from Germany, I'm taking the German perspective now. So in Germany, we have a lot of manufacturers, of course, and let's say 10 years ago, or maybe 9 years ago, most of them were kind of reinventing themselves in terms of their product offerings. So they were digitizing their physical products they were manufacturing. And they were also digitizing their sales channels. They were digitizing their customer experience overall. And that's where we kind of stepped in with them, bringing them into the AWS cloud, because this was the place to be in terms of digitization, because some of the workloads they had, they were quite volatile in terms of volume. Yeah? So the cloud was the only place where they could really bring that to life. And it was very important to them that they have a local German-speaking one-stop shop. Yeah? So we started speaking with them about some projects, delivering functionality, and we ended up with managing the whole AWS environment for them.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. I said earlier that Europe makes up 23% of the world's number, and in some cases, you're the first, to talk to clients about this, and you're maybe a little bit earlier in the journey in some of the countries through Europe than maybe some of the other places in the world. Srini, maybe we can walk to you and talk about your journey with AWS and managed services.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who are familiar with Rackspace was founded in 1997 at the start of the internet boom. And exactly for some of the same reasons you talked about, right? Supporting and managing these web-based applications was difficult. Setting these infrastructures was this. So Rackspace was actually the first company that opened up managed hosting in this space. And so for us, moving from there into managed services is a natural transition, because like the way I describe it to our customers is any workload, any application you think about, 95% of its life cycle is spent after you put it into production. So we get excited about the day 0 and day 1, which is pretty cool. We're there as well, but the day 2 and beyond is where the life starts. And our superpower in AWS's terms is like we know how these applications and the workloads behave in that space. And as AWS started to bring in and add a lot of those services, we weren't as early as 2013, but 2014 we started that journey. And what we did was what we were doing in the other environment, we brought it in here. So there are 3 things that we brought in, and the first one is the managed services. We called it managed cloud operations. The second is a flexible engagement model, which was pretty innovative when it was introduced, called elastic engineering. So think about level 1, level 2, level 3. You would do it through a typical managed services space, but the level 3, level 4 for more specialized things came in through elastic engineering. And then we extended that into a hybrid cloud operation. So 3 offerings in that managed cloud space that allowed us to engage with AWS pretty early on and continue to grow with them.
That's a great story. And a little tidbit about myself. I've been an industry analyst for 8 years. My first ever industry keynote was at a Rackspace event in New York City. So that was I think you can still find it somewhere on YouTube.
I'm going to go look it up. I'm going to go look it up. I want to hear that.
So Pankaj, if we could move over to you and the story, you mentioned the IBM story, but dial it back in terms of the AWS and managed services and tell us about the journey.
Sure, absolutely. I think I'll be glad to share that. So as I mentioned, I think we spun out of IBM. We were the IBM Global Technology Services. And since our inception, we signed up as the AWS MSP partner. And we were able to bring in the people, the team that was managing it through our heritage, the tools that we had acquired, and the processes that have been set up. So our original relationship as a AWS MSP partner actually started like 7 years back, but then when we became an independent company, we went through the whole audit process again in early 2022, and in fact, in this quarter in 25, we again had another audit process. So we've realized that now we have reached a stage where, after coming out of our heritage organization, we have got a great opportunity to work with the best of the class, partners such as AWS, meet the customer where they want to be, right? Previously, we were a little constrained in terms of, meeting the customer where they want to be and taking them through that journey. But now with this strategic relationship that we have with AWS, I think that has really helped us in terms of making sure that we are providing the best solution, working proactively with AWS by using the platform that we have developed, and I'll talk about it later as we go along in terms of Kyndryl Bridge that we have, the focus on Kyndryl Consult, as well as the AI ops that we use on top of that, because the kind of experience that Kyndryl has, like we've had more than 3 decades of experience managing the 75% of the Fortune 100 customers, right? So the kind of data that we have, we are able to provide actionable insights to our customers on top of that. And by collaborating with AWS, providing all the support that we get from AWS, I think it has been instrumental for us in this journey. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And we've got something in common. I was at IBM 17 years, and I ended up spinning out of IBM as well with Lenovo at the time. So Jonathan, moving to you, you mentioned 2013. Love to hear kind of the journey, the early moments working with AWS managed services.
Sure, Jay. So in 2013, that was actually, I would say, the birth of AWS or public cloud in the market in ASEAN, right? And what we saw in 2013 was there's not a lot of adoption at that time. And a lot of the barriers to adoption were really 3 things. Cybersecurity was one of them. The second one was really they're very familiar with on-premise virtualization, but they really didn't know what public cloud meant. I mean, customers in general, right? They were used to, I can see the servers, I can touch them, but moving to public cloud, how does that work, right? So the third one is actually really, they have, whether a small or big IT team, but what competencies would they need, what certifications? And if they really moved critical services or applications to AWS, who would manage them, right? So when we identified those pain points and barriers of adoption, we figured what would be the right services portfolio to begin with, because there's just so many, it's so broad, right? And we thought that what if we were able to do managed services that address these needs? And one of the key, offerings that we really put to market and go to market with was really managed services. And it took us maybe around 2 years to really refine, develop a robust managed services offering that would really help them accelerate the journey towards cloud. So it was really identifying that, right? And then in those 2 years, we were able to establish ourselves as the first managed services competency partner in Asia in around 2015, 2016 timeframe. So that's a pretty big achievement for us. And we've been doing a decade of that with partners. And like I said earlier, 1 out of 4 of our customers are managed services customers. So it seems like it's a good formula for us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And, as I mentioned earlier, Asia Pacific is just second behind North America in terms of managed services. So those early days, you've done a great job to raise awareness and to obviously drive some of AWS success. So during the journey back, onboarding and other things, Sachin, love to hear, you got some great partners surrounding you here, but maybe to a new partner, in terms of getting onboarded, the education, the training, how to really steer in the early days of the journey. What can you say from a program perspective?
Yes,
new partner?
Absolutely. So excellent question, I think, so the way we engage with our partners who are looking both to start a managed service provider kind of business, or for our existing partners as well, we believe that the promise of AWS plus the partner is in keeping making sure that we are all ahead of what the customer needs are. So one of the key things that we do as a partner starts a journey on the managed services business is to enable them through workshops. We conduct workshops that allow them to kind of build the best practices of how to run a managed services business. It sets up the bolts and nuts and bolts of what the managed services practice should look like, how to do various value add within that managed services business and differentiate themselves from where the rest of the world is. And so there's the workshops are a key cornerstone of how a partner gets started on the managed services journey. But then the key thing is about keeping themselves all engaged on building that infrastructure and the tooling. And so we have within part of the program is to kind of offset the cost of tooling and integrating with what the AWS systems are so that there's a seamless experience for the customers. And that's where customer being the core and the center of the objective of creating business outcomes for the customer is where our program is really indexed on. So we are bringing the partner along that journey, making sure they're set up and onboarded to be able to deliver and be an extension of AWS from managing the AWS infrastructure and services and applications built on AWS, right? So that's the cornerstone of that. But then we have done multiple things to go enhance the value for our partners, even for those of you in the room, right? It's that continuous road mapping, right? Are we aligned and continue to be aligned on the roadmap that is coming in front of us? New services are being added. We continue to be at 200 plus services, continuously adding and innovating features and services for our partners and our customers. And as we do that, we have events like Partner Equip, which are NDA-based content that allows our partners to swim with us and prepare ourselves to be able to deliver value to the customer on day one of their adoption of the service, right? So our managed services partners get access to that kind of roadmap and technical and other enablement. But then what we have now started to understand is also that our partners are having multiple businesses that feed into the managed services. So like eCloud Valley, Jonathan, you are saying, doing a migration and then bringing that migrated workload onto managed services. So how do we make sure that partners like yourselves are bringing those migrations and able to do it across the customer? So we have migrations for or map for MSPs. That's a part of the program as well. And we'll be continuing to innovate, like we are continuing to add more value and benefits to it. So we are now adding more influence revenue and managed revenue. So we have coined the term revenue under management. So we are going to go look at that and say, how do we make sure that collectively you are able to get more and more value to the customers, our joint customers, and how do we do it from a program perspective? So super excited about what we have and then continue to evolve that. I think it's always day one at AWS, so we continue to keep evolving and innovating for our customers with our partners, right? So.